Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So now that we're halfway through the NHL season, I thought it'd be a fun idea to give you 8 hot takes that I think is going to happen for the rest of the year, whether that's the rest of the regular season, awards, playoffs, draft, or anything in the offseason. Not going to dive into like the start of the 2025-2026 season, what I think is going to happen. But yeah, all of that good stuff. I love to give out some hot takes. In fact, we're shortly going to go over my 8 hot takes that I gave out like 10 games into the season this year on October 31st. I did a video basically like this. But yeah, these are hot takes. I'm going to be wrong about most of these. That's why they're hot takes. They're not 50-50 shots of likelihood. They're more so like 5 to 25%. But yeah, let's go over the last 8 that I made about 2 months ago. Kaprizov wins the Hart, still possible. Cousins not on the Sabres 12 months from now. Possible considering how bad the Sabres have been playing, especially since October 31st. William Eckland, 65 points. He's on pace for 60. A Nunnin Calder finalist. That's definitely a miss. Not even on the Colorado Avalanche anymore. I thought he was going to take that starting job from Georgiev. Werenski, 70-plus points. This was only after 10 games. That looks like it's definitely going to hit. Stamkos still at 30 goals. He does have 10 goals in his last 31 games, but probably not going to hit 30 unless he gets scores at half a goal pace down the rest of the way. Cam Talbot, 4-nation starter, didn't get selected, but I still think he probably should have. And then I wasn't moved by the Jets' 9-1 start. So I think I did pretty decent there. We still got to see how that goes. There's still a lot of time based on what I gave out. But we're going to give out 8 new hot takes. So let's get into it. And up first, we have JT Miller will be traded within the next 8 months. When looking at it, we obviously have Elliot Friedman coming out and saying that they're weighing all options and that they definitely would be more willing to trade JT Miller given his age. And he's not really like a franchise player like Elias Pettersson. He has bounced from team to team. There might be some locker room stuff there. So yeah, I would not be shocked if the Canucks trade him. I think it's more likely that it happens this offseason when teams can obviously reevaluate and have far more cap space to work with than potentially maneuvering around JT Miller's $8 million, matching that salary mid-season. But yeah, the Canucks, although they've been injury riddled, have been a little bit disappointing this season. 18, 12, and 9. So 18 wins, 21 losses, getting carried by the overtime point like my New York Islanders, the loser point. And I think if the Canucks have if they miss the playoffs or if they are a wild card and then an easy first round exit, I think you'd have to reevaluate stuff, and JT Miller would definitely be the guy to go. And I definitely could see it happen. Maybe get a younger guy that more so fits their timeline. Miller's 32 years old and has like 6 years left. Move off that contract for a team that's maybe more desperate to win now, and JT Miller fits their timeline more. I think it probably happens. I think it's hot. I don't even know if it's that hot of a take to start out with. We're going to get hotter, don't worry. But yeah, I'm going with JT Miller for my first hot take. Number 2, Victor Eckland goes top 4, not top 5, because I think he's arguably the 5th best prospect. Top 4. I think that he jumps either Porter Martone or Michael Misa. I think a team definitely could fall in love with the Victor Eckland, considering what he's doing over in Sweden in the second-tier league. He has 15 points in 24 games. Very impressive production on top of a very good World Juniors with 6 points in 7 games. You think about Porter Martone as that power forward, but Victor Eckland plays more like a power forward, despite only being like 5'11", 6 foot. He is an absolute dog, and considering the familial genes of William Eckland, who was in a prior take that I did 2 months ago, I think teams might really, really like. Imagine the San Jose Sharks if they had the 4th overall pick. Maybe they go with Victor Eckland. But yeah, I can definitely see, although I think Misa and Martone maybe have a higher ceiling than Eckland, I could see a team taking Victor Eckland within the top 4, considering he seems like kind of a bust-proof prospect and does still have a very high ceiling within his own respect. I'm very high in Victor Eckland. I'd still have Misa or Martone over them, but that's a hot take. There's always a draft surprise somewhere. Someone going, Beckett Seneca went freaking 3rd overall. Victor Eckland going top 4 wouldn't be that much of a shock. But right now, considering we do have that top 4, it would be pretty surprising. Next up, the Colorado Avalanche win the Central Division. When looking at them, right now they're 5 points back of Winnipeg, same games played. They're 3 points back of Minnesota, but they have a game in hand. And yeah, Colorado is just, and Dallas has a higher points percentage right now, but I'm going with Colorado Avalanche. After starting 0-4, they're 25-11-4, good for 5th in the entire NHL. Pretty easily the best mark among Central Division teams. We knew that the offense was absolutely electric. The defense core is very good. It just came down to the goaltending. That's why they started off so poor. They've addressed that. Mackenzie Blackwood has been very good for them. Scott Wedgwood has been good for them. So as long as they can get solid goaltending, I think that they end up around like 107, 108 points, and that probably will be enough to win the Central Division. Again, considering the fact that the Jets and the Minnesota Wild have cooled off a little bit, especially Connor Hellebuck. As soon as I made that goddamn Hart post, he's been playing like shit, and Minnesota is banged up a decent amount. Dallas definitely could potentially win it as well, but I am rocking with with Colorado, despite them being fourth right now in points percentage. They're playing great. Sticking in Colorado, Rantanen wins the Rocket Richard. At the start of the season, I said 30-1. That is fantastic value for Mikko Rantanen in a contract year. It's now at 9-1, plus 900, and rightfully so, considering he's second in the entire NHL in goals. Leon Draisaitl is definitely the favorite. If I were to tell you who I think is going to win it right now, it's Leon Draisaitl. He has 29 goals to 24 by Rantanen, as well as Braden Point and Kaprizov having 23, despite them playing a handful less games than Mikko Rantanen. But yeah, I bet on Mikko Rantanen, considering obviously him and McKinnon are arguably the best forward duo in the entire NHL outside of McDavid and Draisaitl. But honestly, this year they've been on the same level of those guys. But yeah, he's in a contract year. Colorado is a high octane offense, and I think he's definitely going to be going balls to the wall compared to maybe a Leon Draisaitl that already has his extension locked up. Final weeks of the season, Mikko Rantanen's going to be hungry as hell, and I could see him. I don't think he's going to score 60 goals, but I think this year, like 56 might be enough to win the Rocket Richard. He scored 55 2 years ago. Last year, 42. Mikko Rantanen is a beast, and I have him winning the Rocket Richard. Call me crazy. Next up, Sam Reinhart. Speaking of another guy that might be in the Rocket Richard race, and last year definitely was, if it wasn't for Austin Matthews. I think Sam Reinhart, by the end of the season, should be regarded as a top 20 player in the entire NHL. Assuming that he keeps on going at the pace that he's going at and has a solid playoff run. This guy has been insane the last 2 years. And looking at him last year, 57 goals, 10 goals in the playoffs en route to his Stanley Cup win. Awesome defensively this year. This year, straight up should be the Selke pick. Him and Barkov have been fantastic. Barkov has missed 10 games, but him in his own right, even when Barkov wasn't playing, amazing defensively. He has 22 goals, 24 assists, 46 points in 41 games. So around on pace for like 45 goals, 50 assists on the season. Yeah, the last 2 years have been exceptional for Sam Reinhart. So assuming that he finishes strong going at around these paces, you have a guy that maybe isn't the most explosive player, but I think that he is one of the smartest players in the entire NHL in terms of hockey IQ. And that makes up for maybe, not saying he lacks physical tools, but doesn't have like Nathan McKinnon, Connor McDavid level of physical strengths. So I think Sam Reinhart, rightfully so, over the last 2 years, what he has done is that of a top 10 player in the entire NHL. I'm not ready to put him in the top 10, don't get me wrong, but I think 18, 19, especially when you have guys that we had in our top 20, like an Elias Pettersson, kind of struggle a decent amount. Miro Heiskanen's not quite playing to the level that we expect. I'm probably going to have Reinhart at like 21, 22, 23 when I drop my updated top 50 on January, or start dropping it on January 15th. But by the end of the season, it might be undeniable that Sam Reinhart is a top 20 player in the entire NHL. And also, just a stat that I pulled up before this, for anybody that says that he's a Barkov merchant, in the 19 games that he hasn't played, that Barkov has not played over this season and last, he has 11 goals, 12 assists, 23 points in 19 games and is a +9. He is definitely a 1B to Barkov's 1A, who's a top 10 player in the entire NHL. But Sam Reinhart is a stud. Yes, he's also shot over 20% the last 2 years. And last year was definitely like, he got a little bit lucky by scoring 57 goals. I don't expect him to continue put that up. But yeah, I think his shot selection and his overall shot deception is so good because of that high IQ that I think him shooting 18 to 20% is kind of sustainable. I'm not going to lie. Maybe not 22, 23% that he shot the last 2 years, but I think that he's a consistent 40 to 45 goal, 90 to 100 point Selke level guy. Is that not a top 20 player in the entire NHL? I think it is. He's fantastic. So as a result, I might have Sam Reinhart. I expect to have Sam Reinhart sniffing and being within my top 20 players in the entire NHL. And again, no goalies on that by the end of the season. And next up, I think Lou Lamoriello gets fired. Maybe this is just wish casting because I'm an Islanders fan, but I think based on the trend that this team is on right now, and it's just been so bad, and he's 82 years old, I think he finally gets fired. I think it's finally time. I will never talk bad on Lou Lamoriello's overall tenure because it's been the second most successful Islanders tenure by a country mile in franchise history outside of the dynasty from 2019 to now. But basically all that success was 2019 to 2021, where we made 2 conference finals, as well as swept the Pittsburgh Penguins. What a memory that was. It's been the first 3 years. The last 4 have been an absolute shit show. Missed the playoffs in 2022. 2023, 93 points lost in 6 96 games to Carolina. 2024, 94 points, lost in 5 to Carolina. And this year we have 37 points in 40 games. And honestly, I think they should fire him now just so we can have a plan in terms of a retool, rebuild, sell Paul Murray, sell Nelson at the deadline, start thinking about the future, because I'm afraid that he might double down to save his job and trade even more future assets. It's time to, at the bare minimum, do a retool, a big retool, similarly to what Washington tried to do. Not saying we'd have the same success, but something needs to change, and it starts with Lou Lamoriello, and Patrick Waugh will probably also be out as a result. But yeah, I think last year, I thought he probably should have got fired, but I understood it. They still made the playoffs. If they're a sub 500 team this year and the ownership doesn't fire him, they should not be surprised when the Islanders are bottom 5, bottom 3 in attendance next year. Rightfully so. The fans are going to say, fuck this shit. You don't care about winning. You keep this dinosaur employed. As a result, we're not going to show up to your games. And I'll applaud the Long Island natives. I live in New Jersey, so I don't go to a lot of games, period. But yeah, my Long Island faithful, we will not be attending a ton of games next year. This is a really hot take. I think Finland wins the Four Nations. I am not saying they're the most talented team. I'm just giving out a hot take. I understand that they are the fourth, in terms of roster strength, the fourth team in the NHL, or fourth team in this tournament. But I think they're a pretty damn good team, and I think they could surprise a lot of people, considering they do have the star talent in terms of forwards. Barkov, Rantanen, 2 top 12 forward, top 10 skaters in the entire NHL, as well as Aho, Hintz. Granlund proved that last year was no fluke. He's a legit stud. Laine, Lundell have been great this year, as well as guys like Lehkonen, Teravainen. Armia's been good. Kakko, since going to the Seattle Kraken, has 5 points in 8 games. Luosterainen, Erik Haula. The defense core isn't great, but you still have Heiskanen and Lundell that have experience. Rasmus Ristolainen has really bounced back the last 2 years in Philadelphia, on top of Nico Mikkola emerging as a good second pair guy on an actual contender. And then your bottom pair is kind of a shit show. It's Valimaki and Olli Mata, but they have been playing together somewhat in Utah, so at least you have some going into that tournament, some chemistry between those two guys, which does matter a decent amount. In international tournaments, you have a top 8 goalie in UC Saros. So yeah, I think that they could surprise a lot of people. As of right now, I think I'm going to pick them. I think I'm going to say screw it. I'm not going to go with the United States. I'm not going to go with Canada. I'm going to go with Finland to win it, because I think Finland, their players are all very good two-way players for the most part, outside of like Patrick Laine, and just the Finnish way. We saw it at the World Juniors, surprising people with their team-oriented style of play. I think that could be massive for a tournament where you're not going to have multiple practices and get in a flow with these guys. And I keep on drawing back to that 2016 Team Finland at the World Juniors, that one gold that was absolutely insane. So screw it. Finland wins Four Nations. They're like plus 700. US is like plus 160. Canada's plus 170. Sweden's like plus 350. I'm going with the underdog. I am saying Finland. And then lastly, I think David Carl gets hired by the Chicago Blackhawks. David Carl, if you don't know who he is, just won another World Juniors with Team USA, won it last year, is the head coach at the University of Denver, or Denver University, I forget which way it is, but he won the national title in 2024, upset that Boston College team that was absolutely loaded. He still had a bunch of good players like Steve Boyum, but yeah, also won the Natty in 2022. He's only 35 years old, but he has been the coach at Denver since 2018, so he's very experienced and learned under Jim Montgomery. And if the Chicago Blackhawks get a top 4, especially a top 2 pick, and have Hagens, who Carl's obviously coached before, or Schaefer, and they have Bedard and Schaefer as their cornerstones, I think that that's really appealing for David Carl to finally take that jump. I'm sure that he's gotten calls about jumping, but the job hasn't really been right. Chicago adds another blue chip guy. I could definitely see them as a original 6 franchise with a lot of money, buying out David Carl, who still does have like 2 years left on his contract at Denver, and giving him this massive bag and saying, hey, Bedard, Schaefer, Carl, that's our big 3. Go build, go be aggressive. And if you're David Carl, you've dominated NCAAs the last 2 out of the last 3 natties you've won, and especially in college where it's a total shit show right now with NIL, pay to play, and the CHL merger is going to be very confusing. So maybe now he's done his job. He's succeeded a shit ton at Denver. Might as well take a crack at the NHL level. Yes, Denver is. He played there, then he assistant coached there, then he eventually coached there, so that is home. But at some point, I feel like you gotta, and he's so young that like he probably could return as a Denver coach easily down the line. Take a chance at it. Go be an NHL head coach, and I say Chicago is the spot to throw him an absolute bag. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Which takes you think are absolutely insane? Which ones do you think have a decent chance at happening? And I'll be seeing the next one.